today, Lesson 10. In the last lesson, you heard for yourself how two notes which are an octave apart make essentially the same sound, even though they're different in pitch. One result of this is that you can play any piece of music an octave higher or an octave lower, and it will, to all intents and purposes, remain the same piece. Page 109 of your Lesson 10 booklet shows how octaves are changed in written music. When a figure 8 and a dotted line appear above a set of notes, it means they're to be played an octave higher than they're written on the stave. Likewise, when the 8 and the dotted line appear below a set of notes, it means you should play them an octave lower. So the middle C in example A is actually played as the C above middle C, and the middle C in example B is played as the C below middle C. Why, you ask, have this extra complication? The answer is that it's a much more convenient way of writing very high and low notes than putting them on a string of ledger lines above or below the stave. And, once you get used to the system, it makes the music a great deal easier to read. In exercise 95, on page 110 of your booklet, both the right and the left-hand parts are designed to be played an octave higher than they're written. What you're playing here is actually one half of a duet. But don't worry, we'll provide the other half on the tape. When you perform a duet, with two players side by side at the same keyboard, you obviously can't sit in your usual position. One player has to sit to the right of centre of the keyboard and the other to the left. In this case, you have the higher part, so move your stool or chair to the right before beginning to play. Now, listen to the other two hands playing the lower half of the piece. When you've practiced your part, simply add it over the top, as you do when you're playing along with an orchestral backing. So far, the sharp and flat signs you've met have appeared in front of individual notes in the music. They've always occurred within specific bars, and their effect has been cancelled by the bar line that follows. But when the same notes are sharp or flat throughout a piece of music, written music takes a short cut that makes it unnecessary to repeat the signs every bar. The illustrations on page 111 show how this is done. The sharp and flat signs are written at the very beginning of the music, just after the clef, to make what's known as a key signature. Examples A and B show you two possible key signatures: F and C sharp in example A, and B flat in example B. When a piece of music has a key signature consisting of F sharp and C sharp, all the Fs and Cs within that piece are sharp, unless, as we'll see in a minute, there's some indication to the contrary. Similarly, when the key signature is B flat, all the Bs in that piece are flat, unless otherwise indicated. Example C shows what happens in practice. All the Fs and Cs are sharp because of the key signature. The bar lines don't cancel the effect of the key signature, and it doesn't matter whether the Fs and Cs are higher or lower than the ones on the lines and spaces marked by the sharp signs. They're all raised a semitone regardless. Example D, on page 112, illustrates the difference between key signatures and the sort of sharps and flats you've met before. When sharp and flat signs appear within the music, they're known as accidentals. An accidental is always cancelled by the bar line following it, and it only ever affects the notes it's placed against. It has no effect on notes which have the same name but a different pitch. But what if, in a piece with a key signature of B flat, we want to include an ordinary B note? And what if we want the first C in a bar to be sharp, and so give it a sharp sign, but then want the second C in the same bar to be an ordinary C? Obviously, we need a way of cancelling sharps or flats, whether they appear in a key signature or as accidentals. In written music, the sign that does this is called a natural. It's shown on page 112 below example D. When you see the natural sign in front of a note, you know that you have to play the natural white key for that note, and not the black key above or below it. So in example E, the B in the first bar is flat because of the key signature, but the B in the second bar is natural, the normal B note, because the natural sign cancels the effect of the key signature. Yet, as you can see, the B in the third bar is once again a B flat. That's because the effect of a natural sign, like any other accidental, is cancelled by the bar line which follows it. And in the example shown, this means that from bar 3 onwards, the music once more obeys the key signature. At this point, read through pages 111 and 112 again, and compare the different examples. Don't carry on with the lesson until you're absolutely sure you understand the difference between key signatures and accidentals. Now we're going to take a look at the significance of key signatures. Although they get round the need to write accidentals in front of every note, they have another more important job to do too. The main purpose of a key signature is, as its name suggests, to tell us what key a piece of music is written in. And to understand what a key is, you need to think back to the difference between scales, which we began to explore in the last lesson. You'll remember how, by playing series of 8 notes, starting from different notes on the keyboard, we saw that a major scale has to have a particular sequence of tones and semitones. We also discovered that the only major scale you can play on the white keys alone is the scale of C. On page 113, you can see what happens when you play a scale on the white keys starting from G. Like the scale of C, there's a semitone where it's wanted between the 3rd and 4th degrees. But as you continue, the next semitone occurs between the 6th and 7th degrees instead of between the 7th and 8th. Let's just listen to the difference. Here's the C major scale. And here's the scale from G to G on the white keys. As you can hear, it doesn't sound quite right. But you've probably already guessed how we can make the scale of G a major scale. We simply turn the F, the 7th degree of the scale, into an F sharp. This raises the F a semitone, and in the process changes the sequence of tones and semitones in the scale to match those of C major. In other words, with F sharp in the scale, the semitones now occur where we want them, between the 3rd and 4th, and 7th and 8th degrees. You can see this written down at the bottom of page 113. But the best way to appreciate the difference is to hear it. Play G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp and G, and you'll get a scale of G which sounds satisfactory and complete. That's to say, the scale of G major. In fact, it's possible to construct a major scale in this way, starting from any white or black key on the keyboard. All we need to know is which notes to make sharp or flat to give the required sequence of tones and semitones. But this still doesn't answer our question, what is a key? Quite simply, the key of a piece of music tells us which scale the music is based on. We've already said that scales are far more than just boring musical exercises. A better way of looking at them is as codes, which tell us which notes are going to sound right when played together. Page 114 of your booklet shows how a scale influences the choice of notes used in a piece of music. On the one hand is the tune or melody. On the other, the accompaniment or harmony. To work together, both must be based on the same scale. So now, when we say a tune is in the key of C major, we're really saying that it's based on the scale of C major. And the C major scale, as we know, doesn't have any sharps or flats. Now you might think it would be a lot easier if all music was based on the key of C major. And you'd be right, except that it would also be very boring, because your ear would detect the same code behind every tune it heard. By writing music in different keys, based on different scales, composers have the freedom to create any sound they like. And that's, to a large extent, what music's all about. So now we can answer our first question. What is a key signature? A key signature tells us the key of the music. It lets us decipher the code, or scale, on which the music is based. Thus, a tune in the key of C major doesn't need a key signature because the scale of C major has no sharps or flats in it. On the other hand, a tune in the key of G major does need a key signature, consisting of F sharp, because we must play F sharp to construct a G major scale. Don't worry if all this seems a little baffling at the moment. It'll become a lot clearer as we meet other scales and keys in future lessons. For the moment, just think about the two scales you know, C major and G major, and make sure you understand why they consist of the notes they do. Exercise 96 is designed to help you practice the G major scale. As you can see, the music has the key signature of F sharp written in both clefs at the beginning of each line. This not only reminds you that the exercise is in the key of G, but also that every F in it is in fact F sharp. Here it is played through. And now for the first of this lesson's practice pieces, Canzonetta, or Little Song, by Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. Like the exercise you've just been practicing, this solo piano piece is written in the key of G major. So remember to obey the key signature and make all the Fs F sharps. Notice too the repeat signs, which ask you to play bars 1 to 8 twice before going on to play and repeat the rest of the piece. Here's Canzonetta played through. You might just find the tune familiar. Now for some more chords. You've met E minor before, But here it is with the root note in the middle, B, E and G. First the right hand, and then the left. Next, two different ways of playing the D7 chord. The first is with D, F sharp and C. Here's the right hand, and here's the left. Version 2 of the D7 chord actually leaves out the root note D. It's made up of C, F sharp and A. In fact, it's quite unusual for this to be done, because with the root note missing, the chord becomes hard to recognize and is easily confused with others. Nevertheless, it can happen, so it's as well to know about it at this stage. Here's the chord with the right hand and the left. Our fourth new chord is B7, consisting of B, the root note, F sharp and A. First the right hand, and now the left. Exercise 97 gives you the chord sequence E minor, C, A minor, B7, and back to E minor. Exercise 98 has the sequence G, E minor, A minor, D7, and G again. Normally at this point, we'd give you some rhythmic variations to practice, based on the chords you've just learnt. But this time, why not try inventing 2 or 3 of your own? They can be entirely new, or based on others from previous lessons. And by the way, don't forget to play the variations with your left hand as well as your right. Piano Bar, the second of this lesson's practice tunes, is a light-hearted piece of music written in the style of the 1920s. Like Canzonetta, it's in the key of G major, hence the F-sharp key signature. But if you look closely at the music, you can see that it contains some accidentals as well. In bars 3 and 4, the left hand plays C-sharp both times. The bar line at the end of bar 4 cancels the sharp, of course, but just to remind you, we put a natural sign against the same C note in bar 5. This same pattern is repeated again in bars 11, 12 and 13, 19, 20 and 21, 27, 28 and 29, 43, 44 and 45, and 51, 52 and 53. Now look at bar 33. Here there are natural signs in front of the Fs in both the treble and bass clefs, telling you to disregard the key signature for that bar only. You don't meet those notes again until bars 37 and 38, where you'll see we've printed sharp signs in brackets, to remind you to once more obey the key signature. Here's Piano Bar played through complete. same tune with the backing only. Like Romeo and Juliet in the last lesson, once you've mastered piano bar, you might like to try an alternative version, substituting chords for the individual notes in the left hand. You'll find the correct chords printed under the bass clef. To round off this lesson, if you turn to the last page of your booklet, you'll find 2 more exercises designed to strengthen your fingers. You won't hear them on the tape. Simply practice them at a speed you feel comfortable with, then speed up when you've got used to the notes. The exercises are meant to be played with both hands, and to this end you'll find 2 sets of fingering, one above the notes for the right hand and one below for the left. If possible, try practicing with the left hand an octave lower than the music as it's written. The red marks in the music warn you where you need to stretch your fingers to reach the notes. When you can play both exercises fluently with either hand, try playing hands together, an octave apart. And remember, even when things get easier, do keep practicing. To get your fingers into really tip-top condition, it's worth running through technical exercises like these every day.